is happening at the Walt Disney Company because it's wild. I can't even, I mean, there isn't a lot of words I can actually put together that explain what is going on. Now, we'll reiterate if you haven't seen the videos that I posted before. This morning, yesterday, at a board meeting of the Walt Disney Corporation. Hi, just some other guy. Susan Arnold was voted out as the president of the chairman of the board of the Walt Disney Company. Now, we don't know what the vote count was. They never said if it was a unanimous decision. I doubt it was. But she was voted out. Maybe it was a margin of, 5-4. I don't know. I don't know how many people actually sit on the board. I've seen pictures of them. But I haven't counted it. So she was voted out, and the former Nike chairman of the board, or CEO, Mark Parker, who actually sat on the board of Disney, he was one of the board members, was voted as chairman of the board. Now, I want you guys to understand that Arnold being voted out is to me, in my opinion, a meaningless gesture, because what was happening while the board was having a freakout session? Treon Partners, led by a guy named Nelson Peltz, posted a presentation which I added in the first video I uploaded today, called Restoring the Magic, and it's about Disney. And it basically went down every bit that's wrong with the Walt Disney Company. Okay, everything. Debt ratio, money not, basically them being in the red, etc., and where the shares have fallen. Okay, hey Cross, and it was eye-opening. Okay, so you got Susan Arnold being kicked out. You got this guy from Nike who was sitting on the Disney board anyway, put in charge, all right, by Iger's people. Really, I'm going to say this. Iger is the leader of this, not Parker. Iger is the one kind of doing all this. But considering that Treon Partnership invested $800 million, considering that Dan Loeb's group, who is basically, I would say, an ally of Peltz, invested $1 billion, and they're both what is called activist investors. That does not mean they're running around with purple hair and skirts agreeing with LaToya Ravenel. Rather, it means they seek out companies that need help, companies that are in trouble, and invest money to basically help fix what's broken. Okay, that's an activist investor. So when I hear people out there saying, oh, he's an activist, blah, 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 they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, this is going to be a I just got an email from a friend, and all right, I've got to do a podcast today. Anyway, this is the kind of thing where you're going to see the shareholders. Now look, I want you guys to understand, the board serves at the pleasure of the shareholders, okay? Not Bob Iger and the board. serves at their own pleasure. Okay. They have to do, sorry, what the shareholders want. And it's really something when I'm looking at all of this and going, we could wake up in a week or two and find out the entire board of directors was fired. Okay. The shareholders control the company, not the board of directors. If the shareholders are not happy and Trion Partners with their dissertation, I think it's like 35 pages, and I just skimmed it, and I might have my husband actually copy it up so I can actually read it in paper form. Basically outlined why the board of directors is shit and why Bob Iger is shit. So this is the problem that's going on right now. And my feeling in all of this is that the board of directors itself is in trouble. Look, Bob Iger is not really dealing from a power source. He got the board of directors to oust Susan Arnold. Nelson Peltz worked at P&G as a activist investor helping to fix P&G. Who was who was the chairman of the board at P&G? Susan Arnold. They were there at the same time. Okay, let's talk about just a couple of the big shareholders. One is named Rupert Murdoch. Let me ask you guys a question. Put a one in the chat. Rupert Murdoch likes money, right? Do you think he's happy with where Disney shares are, considering part of the deal that he made with Iger was in shares of the Walt Disney Company? No, he's not happy. He can't be. George Lucas got quite a bit, like billions of dollars worth of shares in the Disney company. Do you think he's happy? No. This is a purely business deal. Now, I'm going to tell you something about the shareholders. They're not like me and you. They don't have little tiny 401ks and are hoping to retire with a few million in the bank. So they're, the last 20 years of their lives, they can pretty much kind of cool their jets and relax. It's not that. Okay. These people put a lot of money into Disney. And if you look at the shares, they've gone in the last 10 years. Nosedive. I don't think Disney stock has been this low in 20 years, 25 years. Peter, I think you're right. I think within a month or two, we're going to see a big change. I think Iger, look, this is a desperate move. Okay, this is a desperate clown move too. And I'm gonna say something else. Susan Arnold sat on the board of directors at Disney since 2008. Okay, so she's been there 15 years, or had been there for 15 years. Anybody think she's a happy camper right now? No. Anybody think she saw this happening? Yes. Anybody thinks she was talking to some of the shareholders I mentioned, including Dan Loeb and Nelson Peltz? You're damn right. Okay. So you're looking at this going, okay, when is this going to come to fruition? It's a proxy war. I can't remember the last one I've noticed, and as a kid, when they happened, I was like, I'm a kid, I don't care. I'm gonna go upstairs and put on my, my Motley Crue or my Blondie record and say, well, yeah, this is a proxy war, and she's part of it. She has voting shares. So does Bob Chapek. Okay. Wonder why he's been quiet? There's a lot to that. Okay. So I'm like, okay, fine. Okay. I'm like, cool, we can, whatever. All right. So I'm sitting here, sorry. going, what's going to happen? Well, in March, I would expect to see a war of attrition, maybe, but a war happen and a lot of the board gone. Okay, I don't look. Bob Iger was brought in for a purpose. What was that purpose? All right, let's go back in the Wayback Machine to November. First thing that happens, FTX goes bankrupt. Second thing that happens, this is theory, this is speculation. Christine McCarthy, the CFO, discovers that Disney lost billions. And I mean, not just a billion, like billions, multiple. All right. Calls Bob Iger, whom she knows is part of FTX because he was the first investor, according to Kevin O'Leary. Says, we need you back. If Chapek finds out, we're all dead. And I mean all of us. Because Chapek is a Boy Scout. They fire Bob Chapek on a night where Elton John's having a concert. All the board members were at the concert. I wouldn't be caught dead at an Elton John concert. At all, okay? Just no, thank you, no. But they're fired at an Elton John concert, or he is, and Bob Iger's like back that night. Weird shit's going on. Okay. So, and then we hear rumors of Apple thinking about buying an IP, or, it could be an IP, it could be the entire company. All right. Why? FTX. This is the only thing that makes any sense. It's the only thing that connects all the data points. Okay. Now, fast forward. Susan Arnold is let go yesterday. Okay. Really? How? When? Why? This is what I speculate, and in my theory video, I said this. I think that she discovered what Bob Chapek discovered. I think she was insisting on seeing the books. I think that she figured out that the reason why they dragged Iger back, much to her displeasure, is because there's something going on that they don't want to get out. And she wasn't privy to it. And I think she speculated it was an existential crisis in the management and financials of the Walt Disney Company. Okay. So, and I think because Parker and Iger are buddies, that they made a deal and the board voted her out and Parker took the spot, but he's not the boss. Iger's the boss. Now, we've got Treon posting that Restoring the Magic, little 35-page dissertation. Just putting that out there for the investors to go and the shareholders to go, well, okay. And this is just obvious stuff. This is stuff you can look at in an annual report. You can read the Wall Street Journal. You can do anything, and you can find it. I am wondering about that. I haven't thought of that. I'm not sure. I think they're probably separate deals, but I think if they are, Ron DeSantis will basically shine the light of truth on all that too. Look, Disney's fucked. Let me explain why. People, talking about how tough Iger is. Iger just lost control of the biggest property Disney owns, the Walt Disney World. Okay. That is now that is Florida now. That is Ron DeSantisville. Okay. Ron DeSantis and the Florida State Legislature, which is a red legislature, thanks be to Jesus Christ, King of endless glory, they will destroy. If they find out that those bonds are connected to FTX, they will destroy Disney. They will go absolutely. You will see Bob Iger himself having to testify to the Florida Senate, or the Florida House. Don't be surprised if you see somebody like Matt Gaetz or one of the other Florida state congressmen in D.C. Go and say, I want people in the Walt Disney Company up here to testify, including Bob Iger. Look, FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, is going to sing like a bird. He is not that kid unless, look, he's at his parents' house right now in California. Okay. It's not, I don't think they live in Beverly Hills, or Brentwood, but that's where he is. And he would be an easy person to get if someone wanted to get rid of him, a la Jeffrey Epstein. All right. So I think that if he has to testify in front of Congress, Matt Gaetz, Congressman Scott Perry, whoever's the head of the financial committee now, I think he will sing like a bird. And if he pleads the fifth, it's still going to come out. Okay, he is going to sing like a bird about who was involved. All right, that's just the way it is. Okay, so it's going to get real ugly and real nasty. Okay, and you're going to see a lot of people not named Bob Iger get dragged through the mud. Now, Bob Iger could end up being the Prince Andrew of this mess. He could be the patsy. Look, I'm going to tell you something. Despite how popular he is and all the rest of the shit, if the people also involved decide they need to throw him under the bus, they will throw Bob Iger under the bus. And if you don't think he's unaware of it, you're smoking some really good weed. Okay, now, we'll talk about Bob Chapek. Was Bob Chapek aware of this bullshit? No. If he had been aware of this bullshit, this would be a completely different conversation because he'd still be the CEO. Susan Arnold would still be the chairman of the board, and the board would look a lot different. Okay, they would have gone to the shareholders and said, okay, and the shareholders would have said, fired, fired, fired. Okay, because that's what's going to happen. No, and Peter, you're right. So what's going to happen is, I think in March, at the investors meeting, you're going to see the fur fly. Okay, you're going to see, we want to see the books. We want to see what's really going on, and it's going to get ugly. Okay, because they don't want people to see the losses. Why would they do this? Why would they be in such a hurry to fire Bob Chapek if there weren't things to hide? Think about it. Okay. Now, what else is going on? Okay. How does this affect Marvel? I would say that if we wake up, if through the day at the investors meeting, we hear that the board of directors has been fired, you're going to see a lot of shit hit the fan. Okay, you're going to see a lot of shit go down. Okay, how does it affect Lucasfilm? I think if this happens and Bob Iger wakes up that morning and by that night he's no longer CEO, maybe Bob Chapek comes back, maybe somebody else who is aware of Disney's problems, who is very willing to work with law enforcement and auditors and things like that to fix what's broken, who's very willing to sell off things to cover that, to basically get Disney back into a healthy financial situation. You're going to see, I think, maybe things expedited with layoffs, with executives at the studios being let go. Okay, this is not, there was a video today put up by a friend of mine, and he was basically going on about Mark Parker being woke. And I'm, looking at him going, Mark Parker isn't woke. Mark Parker is a sociopath. So if he thinks being woke, pretending to be, is going to help him, why, by God, he's going to be woke. But if he sees that it's not helping him, he's going to dump it, just like Bob Chapek did. Between them, the weak link, I would say, is Chapek. Or not Bob Chapek, Bob Iger. I would say if anybody breaks in this, it's going to be Iger. Okay. He acts like he's this big, strong guy, and yesterday we had some troll on here saying, he's popular. He's doing everything Chapek did. All right? People are going to go away. The woke people are going to go away. Oh, yeah. And Peter, you're right. You're very right. Now, here's some interesting news that is attached because they are big investors in Disney on the opposite end. BlackRock fired or laid off 500 people yesterday. Okay, 500. They're not doing very well. All right, that's huge. Okay, so I think that their power as far as being able to push companies around with this ESG nonsense is probably going to wane, and you're going to see it wane. So just my advice, guys, is to sit back, relax, watch what's going on. When people are acting like the sky is falling, it's not. Okay, there's literally nothing we can do about this. There's nothing, and I don't think there's anything to worry about as far as the RIPs. It's just popcorn time. And yes, this does affect the day-to-day operations of divisions, the parks and experiences, the studios, the resorts, you name it, everything about Disney that is streaming. Okay. What do I think will happen? Well, there's a rumor out there, I think it being floated around Wall Street, that Disney was going to sell ABC. Good idea. There's also a rumor out there that I think Treon started, and Dan Loeb with his outfit, that ESPN should be spun off. Again, Bob Chapek didn't like that. He looked at sports and gambling as being basically a money windfall for Disney. But, let me ask you a question. Does ESPN and gambling really fit with the Walt Disney corporate identity? All right, it's an entertainment monolith. I mean, it's, right? I don't know, and I don't, when I think about who Walt Disney was, I look at a lot of things that they're into and I cringe, because Walt Disney be going, we don't do gambling and we're a family thing and what, I don't think he'd like Uga's Canteen. I don't think he'd like alcohol actually being sold at the parks. Now, is that a good business move? Yes. Okay. Because at least half the patrons of Disney World are adults that just go because they want to have fun too. Okay. So, this is going to be one of those things that is not going to go away. All right. What do I think the outcome's going to be? I think that the board of directors is going to be completely new. I think that basically what I think, the shareholders, because Iger's side with what I see going on with BlackRock, and BlackRock is fading. I don't remember that. Just some other guy, I don't remember that. Maybe they did. If BlackRock's influence is fading, I mean, when you've got to let go 500 people from a firm like that, that's, what is it, half the staff? That's pretty intense, right? Vanguard and State Street can't really be far behind. And when I look at the investors like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and the rest of them, I don't see them happy about where the company's going. Treon serves as basically a disinfectant unit. Nelson Peltz has been notorious as an activist investor, which doesn't mean purple hair freak running around in a skirt saying we should groom children. Okay. Activist means he sees companies that may need help and tries to get on the board to influence the company's behavior to get it back in the black. Okay, that's what that means. Same thing with Dan Loeb, which is why they're so intent on spinning off ESPN. So I think we're going to see the board change because I don't see the shareholders. I mean, if you're Rupert Murdoch and you're a greedy, miserly motherfucker, why wouldn't you get on board with Treon? I mean, look what's going on. You know, why wouldn't you throw your votes behind getting Nelson Peltz on the board? Okay. Why wouldn't you, if you're George Lucas, do the same thing? Basically, it's good financial reasoning is why Peltz is doing this. And I have never seen Bob Iger say anything that told me that he knew what the fuck he was doing. Okay, I wanted to buy Fox, 20th Century Fox Studios, you know, and then get cornered into a deal for $75 million or $70 million. All right. That's pretty intense, don't you think? That's pretty much the stupidest thing you've... I mean, look, if I had been in that deal and I'm suddenly faced with Rupert Murdoch saying, this is what we're offering. Pay us this much, $70 million, blah, 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 or you're off, you realize that that's an offer that you can make that he'd take. You should be fired for even thinking that. All right. Look at where Disney is financially. They weren't in a very good spot. 2018, they weren't. And then think out loud why, with this financial climate for Disney, would you ever in your ever-loving mind think that you could afford to do that? You couldn't. With $3 billion missing in 2017, and then the debt accrued from, I'm just sitting here just going, you know, wow. Okay, so I want you guys to kind of be aware of what's going on. Get ready, because it's going to be a big battle. Do I think it's going to affect Kathy Kennedy's departure? It might make it go faster. All right. Do I think it'll affect just what Favreau and Filoni are doing? No. I think that is a positive in this cesspool of garbage. What they're doing with Star Wars is a positive, okay? And it's going to be very interesting going forward. But this is definitely a proxy war. This is definitely shareholders will have the last say. And Bob Iger might not like what they have to say. All right. But regardless, if we wake up the morning after the investors meeting and find out Iger and Parker were both shit-canned, I would say that would probably speed up Kennedy's departure. All right. And maybe the new CEO would get a call or call into George and say, hey, do you want to buy your baby back? All right. Work out a licensing deal and a deal where Disney Studios and 20th Century Studios distribute and back whatever George is making. Same deal that he had with Fox. All right. And then he can let Favreau run it or whoever, and Filoni run it and, get rid of the garbage. All right. Which is what he'd do. Anyway, that's just thinking outside the box. There's nothing to say that Disney would ever sell Lucasfilm. But never say never considering what's going on. Anyway, all hail the pissed off investors. Put these clowns in their places. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.